Hi folks, thanks for joining me here today. I'm going to be joined here today by Rob Dyer, who has recently written a book entitled How to Travel in Japan Without Speaking Japanese.
And make sure you pre-plan and build those, sort of touch points into your itinerary, and make sure you touch those bases on your trip. And that only comes really, I think, from pre-planning. So there are a number of exercises in the book which are it's more about psychological and, sort of getting your mind space right, your headspace right rather, and your mindset. What sort of experiences do you want to come away with, and then design accordingly?
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think, there's kind of one half of it that's the mental space. And then there's kind of the logistical side of things, right? And definitely transportation definitely plays a part in your ebook.
Yeah.
And people may not realize the overwhelming nature of the Tokyo bus station or Tokyo subway. I mean, I think there was one time, even from out here, I planned to meet a few friends at like the Tokyo bus station, and I gave them the bus, I gave them the time of arrival, and they basically knew where to meet me. Of course, my bus was late, and I showed up, and then I was basically in like a city that, a bus station that felt like a city, right? Yeah. And I was walking around for a good hour where I just happened to be lucky enough. I was, at one point, I was in the middle of a festival, which was inside of the bus station with like them carrying somebody around, on their shoulders. And I was like, this is unbelievable. You wouldn't even believe it. But and then I somehow ran into my friends, which is probably a miracle in itself. But
Yeah, and there's actually a piece in the book. Again, this is based actually on a more extensive article on the website. But the area I know best is my wife's family come from near Kobe, which is sort of 20 minutes on the train from Osaka. So Osaka and Kobe. Kobe is like my second home, and Osaka is my third, I guess, if it goes that far. But for me, in all these almost 20 years of traveling to Osaka, in and around Osaka, the main station at Osaka in Umeda is just a complete warren, and it's on multiple levels, as all these things are. I mean, when you go up, I think it goes up 12 stories, and you can get escalators right to the very, very top. And even to this day, I still get lost. And I was chatting to some friends who have lived in Osaka all their life, Japanese friends, and they live and work there. So it's their everyday life. And even they said that they still come out the wrong exit at times. And, the thing about it is these things are constantly being developed. I mean, there's always an area of these major stations that's being refurbished or redeveloped or extended. So, I think that's a bit of a get out clause, but it's part of the adventure. And what I normally do is just, if you're never sure, just try and get to the surface as soon as possible and get some eyes on some physical landmarks on the ground floor. And then that's what I do anyway.
So many things in Japan to me make so much more logistical sense than the US or some other countries. But when it comes to, streets and addresses, it's something I've kind of trained myself to get a little bit more used to landmarks in Japan.
Now, I was going to say, that's a very good pointer. And again, the book touches on this when using taxis. It's always good to have the address written down in kanji and ideally even a map. I mean, I'm from England, and in the UK, taxi drivers have to do this incredibly detailed, extensive, and complicated test called the knowledge, where they have to be tested on getting from location A to location B, avoiding certain routes or roads or all these sorts of avenues to go there. So they know these places inside out, and they're incredibly knowledgeable. In Japan, it's almost a bit like the Uber generation, where the drivers they're really good at what they do, and they're nice people and all the rest of it, and it's great customer service. But even in a small town, you can say a destination, and they probably won't always know it. So it's always good to have, the ward or the area that the location you're headed to is in, to give them some sort of pointers to begin with. But as I say, it's good to have the address written down and have it written down in Japanese, because most cab drivers in Japan won't be speaking any English.
If I was going to write a foreword or a summary of the whole travel experience, I would say, don't be afraid of getting lost. I mean, to me, some of those, experiences of getting a little bit turned around or having to ask people for directions, I mean, those people experiences are probably some of your most memorable experiences. So don't fear it, because there are worse places to get lost than Japan, and and people are generally helpful.
That's exactly my mindset, Sean. We're on totally the same page there. And again, the book talks about booking, your major accommodation and travel sort of anchor points, if you like, if you're working on a specific itinerary and you have a certain number of days you need to cover the ground on. But exactly that, get the major points covered, and then absolutely build in time to just wander. I mean, I know some people prefer to be very specific and know every day what they're doing on the hour, and that's the way they choose to do it. That's fine. But for me, and I think you're right, and this is true not of just traveling in Japan, but of all the countries I've traveled in, it is don't overplay.
Sure. Give yourself a little bit of time to get lost if you can, if it's possible.
Absolutely, and that's it. And it's just kind of going just a little bit off the beaten path. And just spending half an hour or a couple of hours drifting. Don't research everything to the nth degree. That's part of the joy of travel still. I mean, you can find out pretty much anything about most places these days with the internet, but you kind of lose the essence of travel for me if you over research it. And it's just those moments of chance that I think really do reward. And you're right, certainly particularly in Japan, some of the most rewarding sort of moments and experiences I've had have just been when we've been wandering, and especially when you get up into the countryside and in the mountains, and you might find a town where people might be going there because there's a shrine or a temple that's the draw, but then you kind of go there. And the other thing is I try to encourage is I travel a lot out of season. You just get far fewer tourists and travelers, so you're seeing all the same things that they're seeing, but in a completely different view. And the good thing about Japan is if you do look at the seasons, they're quite defined. So you can avoid the rainy season and you can avoid the worst of the snow if you don't want snow. But you can have that glorious sunshine, and it might be autumn or winter, but you've got clear blue skies, bright sunshine, and empty streets. And you're just strolling those streets, just naturally as you go. And okay, maybe some of the stores might be closed because it's lower season, but then you'll just come across a tiny little place. We were up in the mountains of Yoshino in Nara Prefecture earlier this year, and we were just wandering around, and again it was very low season. It was snowing actually when we were there. It was absolutely beautiful. There's some videos on my YouTube channel of some of the street walking we were doing there, but we found this tiny little restaurant, and so we just stopped there. Had some ramen. It was fantastic, and they had big glass windows, and it looked to overlook this huge valley below, and it was kind of just snowing, and it was absolutely perfect and picturesque. And there was just like one other Japanese couple who were there, and that's the only people we saw all day. And trips and the mere experiences like that are some of the best. And you don't want to plan for those; you just want to let them happen.
Absolutely, and that's why I always think that if I were doing it for the first time, I would definitely want to hit, some of the major cities so that I could experience that bustling city life, but also give myself a chance to kind of get off the beaten path and have some of those close, more intimate encounters with people. Have that moment where you have a connection with somebody, is really important in a trip.
One of the things on my website, I say when I'm sort of introducing what I think of as the real Japan, it's kind of just those moments of chance encounters, exactly is the thing I'm encouraging. And it's not saying there's anything, inauthentic or not real about Tokyo or Kyoto or Hiroshima. They absolutely, that is the real Japan to the T. Sure. All I'm saying is don't just do all the tourist trap things, the sightseeing bits. Go, there's loads of tiny little kind of villages within Tokyo, and Tokyo's vast. I mean, there's loads of little places you can walk around that, most tourists will never go to. Within the cities themselves, there's loads and loads of little pockets of places and micro villages that you can check out that, really are just special.
Absolutely.